From July to September 2021, a friend and I cycled 3,000 kilometers through Europe, starting in Germany and ending at the Ukrainian border. At this point, this video starts. In it, my personal observations and interviews with residents will offer insights into contemporary Ukraine that can otherwise easily get lost in the headlines of international politics.
Дорогие друзья, незаметно, но уверенно и необратимо наступает.
So we just asked some random dude if he can bring us to the city that we want to go, which is like 300 kilometers one way. And he said, yeah, we talked about the price a bit and we found a good solution for everyone involved. And now he's just organizing a driver and then we'll go there. So, on the way to Odessa.
Постоянно куда-то торопимся. Многое обязаны успеть, чтобы впереди замаячил тот самый желанный результат. Впрочем.
So, we're rested, now it's time for a coffee, and then I do some sports, and then finally we'll be able to explore Odessa.
So Emil, what did we just buy?
It's kvass, Živoj kvass. It's a pretty nice drink. It's cold, it's in the refrigerator, and that's another one. It's made of berries.
Alright.
It's the proper shit, the proper Ukrainian shit. It needs to stay cold, otherwise it gets shit.
Okay, excited.
So how is it?
Tastes like a malty soda. Doesn't taste the alcohol at all. It's only 1.5%, right? And it's really refreshing and good stuff. Highly recommend it if you come to Ukraine. Classic kvass. Kvass?
Kvass.
Kvass. Good stuff.
I was traveling the world for about 2.5 years before coronavirus started.
Yeah.
I took people on trips around the world, and I came here to give a guest lecture at the university, February 2020. I was going to stay for 2 weeks, and then the borders closed.
Yeah.
And I was stuck. But quickly I realized that friends in America said, "Oh, you got to get out of Ukraine. You're going to die," because all the news in Ukraine and America has been bad. You know, whether it's about the war with Russia, or if you're for Republicans, it's the corruption of the Bidens, and for Democrats, it's the corruption of Trump and Giuliani. So no matter who you are, it just sounds like a disaster, and everyone was worried for me. But I'd seen the situation here, and I said, this is going to be a good country to be in.
Yeah.
I think it was, I have to check, I think it was National Affairs magazine in DC, maybe it was Foreign Policy, had a story in March 2020 saying Ukraine is going to suffer more from the pandemic than almost any country. This country is going to collapse. And according to the stats, I could see that. I mean, it's the poorest country in Europe, or it was at the time. But here, people keep cash under their mattresses. Everyone has a grandmother in the village who grows vegetables. No one will starve here. People, they know how to survive, especially after the years of Soviet rule and then the various revolutions recently. So I said, it's going to be better here. And I've stayed.
So, Emil Speckmann made us some delicious food that we enjoy right now, and then time to sleep and explore Kiev tomorrow. Sometimes I get this feeling makes me hesitate. Bam, ba, ba, dam, bam, ba, dam, ba, dam, bam, ba, ba, dam. I believe she won't take me somewhere I'm not supposed to be. You can steal it in a call.
Genau, also wir sind jetzt im Museum für moderne Kunst.
Moderne Kunst, oder hier ist jetzt eine Ausstellung der modernen ukrainischen Kunst. Zu meiner Zeit war das ein Lenin-Museum oder wurde gebaut als Lenin-Museum. In der Mitte war eine riesen Lenin-Statue bis ganz oben, bis ans Dach, und unter der Statue war ein Riesenschacht. Die Statue wäre im Falle eines Atomkrieges runtergefahren, geschützt komplett, es ist so ein Bunker. Man hätte ganz Kiew zerbomben können, aber die Lenin-Statue wäre sicher gewesen. Und um die Statue oder an der Statue musste man Spalier stehen, Ehrenwache. Halt war jede Schule eine Woche lang an der Reihe. Und meine Schule war auch irgendwann, wir waren in der 9., 10. Klasse. Und dann musste man stundenlang einfach stillstehen oder Wache halten.
Quasi fast jeder Schüler in Kiew musste dann mal in seinem Leben stundenlang um diese Lenin-Statue stehen.
Ja, genau. Und genau so war es am Lenin-Denkmal in der Stadt. Da musste man auch standen, welche Tag und Nacht Schüler haben Wache gehalten. Nachts. Und es war auch so, noch eine Geschichte vielleicht, als wir Abiturientenball hatten. Abiball, an dem Tag ist nach Kiew Gorbatschow gekommen. Da war eine Schule, die war dran mit der Lenin-Statue in der Stadt und die sollten in dem Moment, wo Gorbatschow vorbeifährt, eventuell mit dem Auto, sie wussten nicht um welche Tageszeit, in dem Moment mussten sie dann irgendwelche Blumenkränze niederlegen. Und die haben da standen in der Stellung und haben gewartet. Also eine Schule hatte echt Pech, weil die Abiturienten anstelle von ihrem Abiball, das wurde auch nicht verschoben, die ganze Nacht standen da auf den Gorbatschow gewartet, er ist da nicht vorbeigefahren.
Внимание! Уважаемые товарищи! Городской совет народных депутатов сообщает, что в связи с аварией на Чернобыльской атомной электростанции в городе Припяти складывается неблагоприятная радиационная обстановка. Партийными и советскими органами, воинскими частями принимаются необходимые меры. Однако, с целью обеспечения полной безопасности людей и в первую очередь детей возникает необходимость провести временную эвакуацию жителей города в пункты Киевской области.
I think that this is regular since after revolution. The people want to do more, and when they feel free, they generate new ideals. When you free and feeling freedom, you can generate new ideas. After revolution in Ukraine was this like fire, and we have more new culture and business and new hip hop scene and new electronic scene and maybe new media. And new festivals, something craft business, many new brands in streetwear, in fashion, Ukrainian, new art, and that's why in Ukraine after Maidan we have big wave of new business, new creative business, and so.
So there's one thing about Kiev that I noticed that I think is quite cool and I haven't really seen anywhere else like this, is they have these beer markets everywhere in the city, and now this is just a random suburb. It's not downtown, it's not a hipster place. And what you can buy in these is beer, obviously, but also all kinds of snacks like dried fish, dried meats, which is what we would usually eat to beer. Salty nuts. You have some random beers here, but what is really cool, you can get fresh craft beer. Yeah, fresh draft beer here, which I really like, and I'm gonna get some.
So, first day here in Lviv, just coming out from the hostel. I have to find a new one today because they only had a bed for one night. Now they're fully booked for the second night. And yeah, so I just go get a cup of coffee and then check out the city and see what's going on there.
So, you've been here for a year in Lviv now.
Yeah.
How do you like the city?
I love it. I think I like this place where we are here, Facet, which is, I think it's a Polish Ukrainian slang word meaning sort of cool guy or dude. And then across the street is Facetka, which is cool girl. And it sort of harkens to the tradition in Lviv that it was a city of philosophers and intellectuals and dissidents during Soviet times. I've come to know a culture here that makes me think Lviv today of the 2020s, the early 2020s, is what Paris was in the 1920s. Everything I've read about that time period, I see here in fruition. Yeah, I see a city of music in the streets, which I think is a great sign of vitality and sort of freedom. It reminds me a bit of New Orleans, which is my last stop in America, my favorite city in America. But unlike New Orleans, which I love, this is not a violent city. It's a very safe city. You can walk the streets freely at night, and it's sort of this paradise in that way. And you have the history of all the different empires that have. I mean, this has been a crossroads of so many different empires. So you have deep history, beautiful buildings and architecture, many generally pedestrian areas like this street. And we're sitting in the middle of the street. It's so nice. And one of the biggest problems in America, our lives are designed around the automobile. And we're very isolated. You don't have spontaneous encounters with people. Everything has to be organized and preset because we're in our little boxes. And here, it can be hazardous sometimes. I mean, this street sometimes, Berminska Street, Armenian Street, it sometimes takes me, no joke, it's taking me sometimes 2 hours to walk 2 blocks because, you see a friend there having a coffee, have a coffee, have a beer, let's talk. And as someone who once lived in New York, part of my soul has a difficult time with that. I'm like, no, I got things to do. But Lviv has taught me to live this slower pace, while still getting things done.
So I'm at Kharkov now, on my way to University Hill, because I guessed that's probably the coolest place in the city, but I might be mistaken. Yeah, just walking there, checking it out, and then see what's going on. And then what I've read is that there are a lot of Soviet monuments and this kind of stuff to visit here. So I'll probably do this as well. So I just got my coffee at this little car with the cat graffiti, and I have to say, next to the craft beer, the coffee here is also really good. Like the density of good coffees in all of the 4 cities that I've visited in Ukraine so far, it's been really high and all really good and affordable. So that's a big plus.
I'm a founder of online magazine Lipmedia. We now say that we are not only magazine, we are organization which develop culture in Kharkiv. And one of our tools is media, and it's our main tool. In Donetsk, when I lived there, I listened many Kharkiv music, and I heard that Kharkiv is like a big cultural center. There are many independent theaters, photographers, artists. This last 6 years, we see how these little communities became one big community, and which became more political, because in Kharkiv it's important to speak about politics, because we are not far from war. In Kharkiv there were time when, like in Donetsk, they made this Donetsk Republic. In Kharkiv there were people which wanted to make the same here.
All right.
And it was like 2 minutes from this office, this government building, and there were Russian flags. And I remember then that at this time I was in Donetsk, and I remember news from Kharkiv, and there were many people from culture which came to these protests with Ukrainian flags, which tried to make something for saving city and saving Ukraine in the city. And media is a cool tool to show people what's
really going on.
Yes.
So that was Ukraine, quite interesting, and an amazing 3-4 weeks here. And now time to head on and see what's going on in other places. And I'm pretty sure I'll come back eventually and